Guys, welcome to your simple interest homework. This is your foldable we'll be filling out together. Simple interest is like a percentage of a total amount of money you either invest, as in putting it into a savings account, or borrow, as in like you're taking out a student loan or a mortgage. Interest adds to the amount you either invest or borrow. It is a percentage of it that is added on to the end. Now, if it's something you're investing, like into a savings account, then interest is a good thing for you because it makes your total amount of money more. Now, if you are taking out a mortgage, interest is a bad thing for you because it's adding on to the total you owe. So, interest in and of itself is the amount of money charged for borrowing or using money. This also can include, I guess a better definition would be like the money added to the initial amount, so the starting amount. This is the money added to the initial amount. Now, the way we find this is usually a percentage of the initial amount. Notice that I didn't say added or subtracted. I said simply added. Interest is always added to your initial amount. Now, a couple examples of what you could do are car loans, home loans, and student loans. Now, this would be bad for you because in these situations, your interest is being added, which means you owe more money. You owe more money. Now, if we're talking about an investment or a savings account, these types of things are good for you because then you have more money. And we'll say because you end up with more money. So interest will be a dollar amount that is added to your initial amount that you're either borrowing or putting into an account. Now, let's talk about the simple interest formula. The simple interest formula is I equals PRT. Now, before we do anything else, let's talk about the operations here. I is a loan, then we have an equal sign. What operation is between the P and the R? Well, the invisible operation is multiplication. And same thing between the R and the T. So over on this side of the equation, all three variables are being multiplied together, and the I stands alone. Now let's talk about what they each mean. The I stands for the interest. Interest in dollars. So this is the amount of interest you earn as you either have this account in savings or if you have it as a mortgage. This will be the amount of dollars your mortgage is increasing by. Next, we have P, which is our principal. This is the initial amount, which means it's the dollars you invest or borrow. So this principal amount, this P, is the initial amount you invest or borrow. Now the R still stands for rate. Rate. And yes, it has to be as a decimal. Decimal or fraction. You cannot use it as it stands, like 5%. You have to change it to 0.05 or 5 out of 100. Last but not least, we have the T. The T stands for time, but very specifically in years. So if they give it to us in months, we have to convert it to years. It's always in years, can't be in months, can't be in days, can't be in anything else. Now this is the formula we're going to come back to and reference. I'll try to be consistent with my colors so that you guys can keep track of what's what. All right, now let's flip the foldable. And now we're going to use that formula. You'll notice example 1 and example 2 are filled in for you. That's because they practice the same skill as example 3, and I didn't think we needed to do them, but they're here for you to reference if you need them. Okay, now just like with our percent equation, as we read this, we're going to try to identify our I, our P, our R, and our T. All right. It says a bank offers, let me just work on the focus there. Let's see. Good. A bank offers an annual simple interest rate of 7%. Right away, you know that that is our rate, which is our R. What is 7% as a fraction or a decimal? Well, it's 7 out of 100 or 0.07. I'm going to use a 0.07 because I prefer that, so I'm going to do 0.07 for my R. Now we'll continue reading. So the bank offers an annual simple interest of 7% on home loans. Okay, cool. So they take out a loan, and then they're going to charge you 7%. Means they're going to increase your loan amount by 7%. The reason why they do this is because they need to cover their costs of loaning you that money. They don't want to loan you that money for free. They're saying, okay, we'll give you the money, but you have to give us more money back. All right, let's continue to read. How much would Tony owe? So right there we know that Tony owing would be the total, which would come from the loan plus interest amount. Okay. If he borrowed $8,000, again, as soon as you see this word borrow, you should be thinking principal. And how much is that principal? $8,000, because that's the initial amount. That's the amount we started with. Then we have to look and say, okay, for 18 months. 18 months is a form of time, so that's T. 18 months. Now this should be giving you guys a big red flag because we know that T has to be in years. Well, how many years is 18 months? Well, we have 12 plus what gets us to 18? Because there's 12 months in a year. 12 plus 6. So this would be 1.5 years. Because 12 months is 1 year, and 6 months is half a year. So altogether, we're 1.5 years. Now, clearly, if they're saying how much would Tony owe, that means the total is the loan plus the interest. Do we know the interest? No, we don't. So we'll represent it with X. Now when we substitute in, we're going to rewrite. So we have I equals PRT. X will take the place of the I. The P will be replaced by our 8,000. Now they're all being multiplied, so I'm going to keep them inside parentheses. Our R is going to be replaced with 0.07, and our T is going to be replaced with 1.5. Now you want to ask yourself, okay, is my X alone? Yes, it is. That means I need to multiply all three of these together. When I multiply all three of those together, you should get X equal to, let's do 840. Now what this X represents is our interest. So this is the interest in dollars. So this is $840 in interest. In this case, they're being charged because they took a loan out. Are we done with the problem? No. This problem says how much in total. So now I have to take my loan amount, which is 8,000, and I need to add my 840 to it. Therefore, you would get 8,840. Tony, for a target statement, Tony would owe $8,840. And we can even say in total. All right, so this is an example of how the equation works. We identify, when we come right up here, we write, replace, recalculate, just like we've been doing for our percent equation, but just with a different equation. All right, let's keep this in mind. Flip our foldable and look at example 4. Now, before I even read the problem, I'm going to identify I, P, R, and T. Before I do anything else, I'm going to say, okay, what are these values? Cool. Let me zoom in a little bit so it's a little bit better. Oh, too much? Okay. Mackenzie invested. As soon as you see the word invested, we know we're probably looking at something important here, and we know that things that are invested are our principal. So right away we know we have $3,500 as our principal or our initial amount. So Mackenzie invested $3,500 in a mutual fund at a yearly rate, here it comes, of 6%. So that's my rate, and it would be 0.06. Okay, continue reading. She earned $9.45 in interest. So this $9.45 is my I, because that's the interest amount of money, which is what I represents. For how long? That's the indicator that you did it right, because you're looking for time. How long was the money invested? Well, let's find out. We're going to rewrite I equals PRT. Then we're going to replace. So we have 945 equals RP, which is 3,500, times our rate, which is 0.06, times our time, which is something we don't know. Now ask yourself, before we even go to the recalculate step, is there an X on that side? No. Is there an X on this side? Yes. Is it by itself? No, because it's got the 3,500 times the 0.06 on it. Now, whenever it's not alone, we usually say we have to divide. Well, wouldn't it be really tricky to divide by two numbers at the same time? I hope you think yes. So what we'll do first is we'll multiply those two numbers and get an answer. Turns out that 3,500 times 0.06 is 210. And we still have our parentheses X. All we need to do is bring down our 945. Now let me ask you the question again. X on this side? No. X on this side? Yes. Is it by itself? No. How can we get rid of a times 210? Oh, well, we could do the opposite. So we can divide both sides by 210. What does that give us? I'll bring it up over here. That tells us that X is equal to 4.5. Now, what does X represent again? Let's look over here. T, what does T represent again? Time in years. So how many years will it take? We would say it will take 4.5 years. Done. So it will take her 4.5 years to earn $945 if she invests $3,500 at this rate. Okay, now let's step it up. All right, example 5. This one was a little bit weirder because we had to multiply then divide. We're going to do that again down here, and then you guys are going to try it down here. All right, Mrs. Smith invested some money in a bond with a yearly interest rate. Boom, as soon as you see that interest rate, you know this is your rate. So let's go ahead and put our I, our P, our R, and our T. Okay, we just identified our rate, which is 4%, which is 0.04. All right, let's continue reading. If she earned, okay, so it's not principal because she's earning $800 in interest. So that means the $800 is our interest amount, which would be our I, on the investment after 5 years. This is our time, which in this problem and all problems would be T. It's in years, so we're good to go. How much was the original investment? So they say, okay, how much is our P? Question mark. Well, we'll use X to represent it. Now we're up to the rewrite, replace, recalculate. I equals PRT. The I will be replaced with 800. The P will be replaced with an X. The rate is going to be replaced with 0.04. And time, or T, is going to be replaced with 5. Now I'm going to ask the same question. Is an X on that side? No. Is there an X on that side? Yes. Is it alone? No. It's not alone because on this side, it's got the 0.04 and 5 being multiplied together. Normally here we divide, but instead we're going to simplify first. So we end up with X, and then 0.04 times 5 ends up being 0.2. These two give us that. We still have our 800 on this side. Okay. Again, is there an X on that side? No. Is there an X on this side? Yes. Is it by itself? No. It's got times 0.2 next to it. How do we undo times 0.2? Well, we need to divide both sides by 0.2. And this will give us, these drop out, leaving us with X. 800 divided by 0.2 gives us 4,000. So let's review the question. How much was the original investment? How much was the original investment or the principal? So we would say the original investment was $4,000. That's our target statement. Good. All right, I'd like for you to pause the video, try this one on your own, and then unpause it and the answer will be here. All right, guys, check your answers. Make sure that you caught that you had to find your interest by taking the total that he repaid and subtracting his principal to give you the interest amount of $2,320. That all then gets plugged in. Here you had to do 8,000 times 4 to get 32,000. Then you had to get rid of 32,000 by dividing both sides, leaving you with 0.0725. Remember to turn that to a percent. You can either move the decimal 2 places or multiply by 100 to give you 7.25% and a target statement. Thank you guys. Hope you learned. I know it's going to be a little tricky, but we're going to practice tomorrow. Have a good night.